Joining me right now from the Community Addictions Peer Support Association is Ashley Highland as well as Karen Hidalgo, and they're here to talk about an upcoming web presentation that aims to educate on some of the stigma surrounding substance abuse. Before we dive in, though, to the both of you, I'll say thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting into the thick of things, then, could I just get you guys to provide a bit of a basic overview of this webinar as well as what it aims to accomplish?
Right. So a couple of things. The title of this webinar is Substance Use Health, the Doorways to Stigma-Free Health Outcomes. And this webinar is on March 9th from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Anyone who wants to sign up can go to capsacanada.eventbrite.ca and they can sign up for free there. The spots are limited, so we do encourage you to do that as soon as possible. With this webinar, our objectives are to understand substance use health and its spectrum and its impact on removing stigma as a barrier to increase health across the spectrum of substance use. Now, during that, we hope that the participants can gain that knowledge and develop understanding on how implementing different approaches to care, such as trauma and violence informed care, and understanding how equity and ending discrimination increases health overall across the substance use health spectrum and across just overall people in Canada that are living well with substance use disorders.
We are also placing a huge emphasis on the importance of providing equity-based resources. So understanding that each individual has their own set of experiences, whether that be based on their race, culture, ethnicity, their language, their gender. There's various factors that contribute to substance use or can contribute to stigma that people experience as a result of substance use. So it's very important to consider equity in how you're approaching levels of care, depending on each person's individual traits, and then implementing approaches that best meet their needs.
Another point in that is looking at the intersectionality of stigma and how different factors can come at play, and how that the equity piece of the intersectionality on stigma can come and affect people different ways because of the intersection of their social determinants of health.
And when it comes to the motivation behind an educational program like this, is there anything that specifically inspired or influenced this attempt to educate people?
Well, there's lots of evidence around how different approaches have worked, but what we are missing is how intersectionality is needed in order to have coordinated access to approaches. So people having to go through multiple doorways in order to get what they need. So we're talking about bridging these services together and being able to have a better look at why equity is important to implement within these services. So over the years, we've done several projects with health-based organizations. So the speakers that we have are people who we've done various projects with and other work with. That's why we were able to have knowledge of different toolkits that they're working on and creating to address the systemic stigma. So through that, we have speakers that are heavily involved in trauma and violence informed care. They're heavily involved in Indigenous trauma informed healing and different approaches that can be used and accepting all pathways to wellness. So with that, we were able to craft together a panel of speakers who are able to touch on different points of equity. So we also have speakers who are from different cultural backgrounds and discussing how culture can affect stigma with substance use and mental health. So we really want to be able to cover these bases to show just a wide spectrum of different traits that are involved and how to be able to properly address certain needs based on personal background and based on different factors that, as we mentioned, are intersecting within substance use and with our experiences with stigma. So we see that it's very important, especially with the pandemic and increased substance use, that it's important to talk about our substance use health and then recognizing each person individually and how these factors come into play.
And just before we close things off here, I know you wanted to clarify some of the details surrounding this presentation, just to eliminate any confusion for people in Lloydminster who might be interested in attending.
I just want to mention firsthand that the webinar is in Eastern time, so that's obviously a helpful hint. And also we will be having a French panel. So there is a French part of the discussion as well. So offering services in French and discussing, so we'll have it, it's a bilingual event.
Thank you both very much for your time.